and the masters of the universe. I am Adam, Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of Grayskull, Cringer became the mighty Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Only 3 others share this secret. Our friends, the Sorceress, Man-at-Arms, and Orko. Together, we defend Castle Grayskull from the evil forces of Skeletor.
All right, welcome to Comics Coast to Coast, episode 210, the Weekday Cartoon Rememberable, match up with the other one we just did a few weeks back. Comics Coast to Coast did an episode, I think it was 208, for Saturday morning cartoons, and this week we're doing the Weekday Cartoon that we would all watch from 2 to 5 or 3 to 5 or whatever it was like in your area. But with me tonight is Joel Duggan of Starcrossed Online. Joel.
Heyo.
Heyo. How's it going, man? Are you excited about talking about more cartoons?
I am. That He-Man trailer at the beginning just completely throws me back.
Oh man, it totally does. I also got a She-Ra I'm going to play right after I introduce Matthew Ducharme of Matt the Wad. Matthew, how are you?
Hey there.
Yeah.
I'm not the most powerful man in the universe, but it could be argued that I'm the most fabulous man in the universe.
Right. How's it go? Fabulous powers were revealed to me that day. I held off my magic sword. And
no, I definitely think He-Man he's definitely the most fabulous man in the universe. Just look at that haircut and those tights. I mean, come on.
He's great. And Cringer, man. Hey, you know what? That whole introduction, when I was a kid, it used to jazz me up, but I really didn't pay attention to what the words were. Did you guys really pay attention when you were kids?
No,
did you get that he was
not.
the Prince of Eternia? Did you guys catch up with that like immediately? Joel,
No,
how about you?
Not with
totally
the lyrics. And I knew that from the show, but not
Right,
not from lyrics.
Not from the lyrics. What about you, Matt? You was all cued
Oh,
into
I
the...
totally didn't care. I was like most kids probably. I was just there. All right, turn into He-Man already. Beat stuff up.
I was always this excited about the whole flashy scene and him holding the sword up and him screaming, "I have the power." That was the moment, man. That was the moment you got all excited. But yeah, they talked about by the power of Grayskull, and I remember when I first started watching, I was like, wait, is Grayskull the place that he hangs out with the sorceress? And is the sorceress and him, are they kind of like a thing, or is that his real mom? There was a lot of questions as a kid I just wasn't picking up on because I was just kind of halfway watching He-Man and the Masters Universe. I was basically running around playing at the same time as running this Filmation creation behind me. But before we get too much further, I do want to give a little bit of fan service to the ladies.
I am Adora, He-Man's twin sister and defender of the Crystal Castle. This is Spirit, my beloved steed. Fabulous secrets were revealed to me the day I held aloft my sword and said, "For the honor of Grayskull!" I am She-Ra! Only a few others share this secret. Among them are Light Hope, Madame Raz, and Cowl. Together, we and my friends of the Great Rebellion strive to free Etheria from the evil forces of Hordak.
Who were those people? Hordak.
I got to admit, I never watched that one because even when I was little, I was like, oh, it's got a girl as the main character. That's a girl's show.
Right, right.
I can't watch that. That's like watching Gem.
You didn't watch Jim?
I did not. I was like, that's a girl's show.
Come
on.
on.
You got to remember, I grew up in the homophobic 80s.
This is true. This is true. There's PSAs and everything on homophobia during the 80s. I don't want to get too far away from talking about He-Man though, because I know that Joel was a huge He-Man fan back in the day. Did you have the toys, Joel?
I did actually. He-Man and Battle Cat came in a set. It was a big box,
right?
And I got them from. Her name was Moira. She was the supervisor at my daycare, and she sent me home with a birthday gift when I was 5.
Wow!
Because I was starting school or near to starting school. Anyway, so there was like 5 is a big deal when you're a kid.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that this was the first real action figure that I had, because the He-Man figures at the time, they had these really big, sturdy elastic bands in them so that you could twist them back and then let them go, and they would punch. Dude, like this great big like left hook kind of smack to the other guy. And eventually I had quite a few more. I ended up collecting like Skeletor and Beastman and all these other guys. Right. And I mean, of course, it was the same mold. Like it was the same like jacked up bodybuilder, same arms. Everything, right? And then they would just repaint them. Like Beastman had red trunks, Skeletor had purple trunks. Like they just put a different head on them, and then they just gave them different coloring. Some of them were really odd toys too. Like there was one called Moss Man, and he stunk. Like they shipped him with some sort of like perfume on him, and it was meant to smell like a bog or something. It was horrible.
I think I remember that one. I had, because I think I never got actually I had gotten the He-Man, but I didn't get any of the other cool stuff like Skeletor. I think I got like Ram Man.
Mm-hmm. I think Ram Man.
Yeah, I think my mom probably got to the store and it's like, I don't know what to get. Looks stupid. All of it looks stupid.
Was that the guy whose head popped up or something?
Yeah,
his legs were springs, and he would crouch down, and he, as an action figure, his legs were fused together because all he did was just pop up and down.
He was the best toy, except for the what was multi-face guy? Who was that?
I had him too. Manny faces.
Manny faces.
Yeah, they were.
Wasn't that clever?
The puns were terrible.
Didn't they also have like a skunk man or something like that? And he actually stunk.
I think it was Skunkor was his name.
Skunkor. That's
what else?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, there was a lot of them that they weren't really that inventive. Merman was not a bad name.
It's okay, but too bad he had a fish face. He had the big green.
There was a flying guy too. Falcor, maybe.
I think
Falcor is the guy from Neverending Story.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because you mentioned Falcor. It wasn't the actor Alan Oppenheimer who did Skeletor. He was Falcor's voice.
Oh, really?
On, Neverending Story. So I think if I remember that correctly, that is a good information to know. I didn't really know too many other actors in that series that went on. Skeletor was probably the most recognizable to me. Now, so if you're listening and you're going, Brian, you forgot all about, who knows? Robin Williams was the Skunk Man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let us know. Send us put us a comment down there in the YouTube channel, or send us an email at guys@comicscoast2coast. I'm definitely no expert on He-Man, but I do know what I liked as a kid, and He-Man was right up there. They churned those things out, man.
Oh yeah, and this is a franchise that, if they did it right, would be a fantastic movie these days. Like there's the CG technology and the special effects and all the stuff that is happening in film right now is just blowing my mind. And I've got Matt and all of us probably share the same, just critical eye of animation and stuff like that when we're watching these movies. I'm no longer noticing. I'm just kind of like kicking back and going, "Yep, this is great. I'm along for the ride." And I feel like He-Man could be something, like if a high fantasy, high sci-fi kind of movie house got a hold of it, I think it could be really fun.
Right. Well, definitely as a 3D movie. Go ahead, Matt.
On that train of thought, though, this is sort of somewhat related, but what you're saying, Joel, like I like that we've gotten past the, hey, here's all the special effects and here's why you should watch the movie part. Right. And now it's come back to like, all right, now you got to have a good story again. You know, because people aren't so interested in the special effects. So now you can do what you said. You can just sit back and enjoy the story, because it's not about like, hey, here's this CG thing. Look, it's how real it is. Wow.
Yeah, and they don't stop the movies for that kind of stuff anymore. Like there's no longer like the swinging sequence from Spider-Man where they're showing off just how cool he looks, you know, for 45 seconds. Just so you're like, okay, sure, you know, I get it. Right. But now the CG effects happen from like the second the movie starts, and there's like never a scene without CG effects in it. So you're not looking for it. It's just there.
True story.
And
true story.
I feel like all of the cartoons that we've been talking about over the last, you know, these last 2 episodes, these specials, could totally be, you know, revisited and brought, you know,
what you mean, like
to
Transformers?
well, okay. Bad example.
Yeah, but that wasn't all CG. They could have totally.
I think I found a Transformer.
Right?
They could find a Transformer.
Does anybody do it? Does anybody do a good Skeletor impression?
No, I can't. I can't go that high.
Back about Hey man. Yeah, that's about all I got too.
I mean,
constantly saying He-Man's name. Hey man.
Yeah, and there's no you can't really say anything nice about the Ninja Turtles anymore either, because of this whole Michael Bay thing that's out right now.
You know what? I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen, because look, we could argue about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles needing to be at a certain bar, but I mean, come on. Did you see the ones during the 80s? And I still loved them. I mean, how bad could Michael Bay do? Don't answer that. But really, I mean, it's still the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like lips are just a bad idea.
Yeah.
Just a bad idea. Well, I mean, here's the thing. He's got a bad track record.
Right.
You know, like Michael Bay Transformers movies, there was one decent one. Everything else has been lowered expectations. I think the third one was okay, you know, but everything else, like everybody just, you know, craps all over it. Right. So then you say, okay, he's taking another beloved franchise from your youth and he's just changing it because I mean, I don't know how old Michael Bay is, because he's a little older than us, I think.
Right.
And he doesn't get it, you know, but then you've got other people like Bryan Singer and oh gosh, who's the guy that directed the latest Man of Steel movie? Snyder.
Snyder, yes.
Zack Snyder.
I love
like,
Zack Snyder.
These guys are like 33, 35. You know, like they were there. Like they lived, they ate, slept, and like breathed this stuff as a kid, and they want to do it justice. They want to make the movie that they would want to go see.
Not just that. I often feel like Michael Bay's stories are completely interchangeable with characters from his other films. Like, you could easily take the story of Transformers and make it apply to the Ninja Turtles, or take the Ninja Turtles and make it apply to, you know, what is it, Bad Boys? You know, it's like he basically makes the same kind of story over and over again. You know, he does do good action sequences. I will give him that, but you know, he needs something better to hang the action sequences off of.
Right. Yeah, need some substance. So did you guys watch the Transformers cartoons like after school sort of thing?
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we should roll that real quick.
More than meets the eye. Autobots raise their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons, the Transformers. Robots in the sky. The Transformers. More than meets the eye. The Transformers.
Wow. Oh,
I mean, how 80s can it be? I love that there's a Transformer that is a cassette tape player.
Right. You can't argue with that. Now, okay. So you were talking about the new Transformer stuff they've got going on, Joel.
Which ones? The movie?
Yeah, the movies.
Well,
what do you think about those? I mean, honestly, just tell us.
Okay,
you hate them?
I don't like Shia LaBeouf, and I don't like Michael Bay's movies in general. But the first Transformers one, when they just like the very first Transformers movie, I thought was pretty cool. I thought they did an all right job of bringing the whole thing to the big screen. And then it went very fast with 2, and again, like it just, they realized, oh, we can make like several $1 million if we just keep making these, and they just forgot about any kind of semblance of story.
Right.
I really enjoyed the Transformers franchise as an adult, but I've gone back to video games, and the stories that they tell in the video games that have come out for like Xbox and Xbox 360, PlayStation and stuff like that are fantastic. And because these guys that are making these video games, they get it, they know the spirit of the cartoon, and they pay homage to all of the cool things that you remember from, the story of the Transformers on Earth when you were watching it after school, back to, they're on Cybertron and they're doing all these like callbacks, and like it's an intelligent story. And I wish that there was more of that. Although Transformers, there's a cartoon right now. I think it's over now. It's called Transformers Prime.
Yes. And I think you're right. I think it is over now.
Yeah, it takes a couple episodes to get used to because there's some whiny kids in it.
Wait. The 80s were all about whiny kids.
Yeah, but this series that was like, 2010 to 2013 or something like that, it's actually really good. It's only episodic for the first like 6 episodes, and then it goes into season-long plots. It really gets good. Did you guys watch Beast Wars and those other?
Yes.
Yeah,
Beast Wars was that first generation of 3D we got.
Yeah.
It wasn't 3D on the screen, but the characters were built in 3D, and it was odd because it was supposed to be kind of organic. And
yeah,
it felt strange, but the stories were pretty dark and deep. Kind of reminded me of the original Transformers.
Yeah, and they went into this whole transmetal thing, and then and that's when it started to get good, because then they stopped pretending to be organic and they were like robot animals, and it became a lot cooler. There's a lot more lasers and explosions and stuff.
That was such a weird decision to go with the organic Transformers when it didn't look very organic. It was all very computer. It would have made much more sense just to go, we're going as crazy with the computer generated looking stuff and a tape deck.
Around that same time, there was that show. I think what was it called? Reboot or something like that.
Reboot. Yeah, that's
Reboot.
I never watched it, but I do recall they had like a whole episode which was basically a tribute to Evil Dead 2.
Right.
It was like the only one that I watched, and I was like, "Oh my god, yes, that's great."
I haven't seen it. I have to go back. I found Reboot to be very interesting. It was definitely outside of his time.
Unique concept for sure. It was not a formulaic kids cartoon meant to sell toys, right?
Right.
There was a third one from Mainframe Entertainment out of Vancouver, I think was the studio that produced all these, and it was called Planet something. Do you guys remember this? I don't remember the name of it right now. I'm gonna have to look it up. There's different planets. There was Ice Planet, Rock Planet, Fire Planet, and they were all trying to save the universe from an evil being that was like a void. It was like a black hole or something like that. They were like darkness, and there was so Earth, air. There was an air planet too.
Were you talking about Avatar? No, I'm just kidding.
No.
That's a good. Yeah, look that up, because I'm pretty sure while you're looking that up, you had mentioned one thing that really triggered my response, and that was, so far all the cartoons we've been watching were heavily merchandise toys that were specifically just half-hour long commercials, mostly from either Hasbro or other places such as that. And Transformers had a direct competitor that you may or may not have watched as a kid, and some people they really dug on this cartoon. It was called GoBots. Did you guys ever see that?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I used to watch GoBots a lot. I had several toys too.
I wouldn't say a lot, but let's listen to what GoBots sounds like. Now see, Wasn't that worth the wait for the GoBots? Because
I think I avoided them because when I was a kid, it was clear to me that the Transformers were so much cooler and so much better made as toys. Like the GoBots kind of felt like the no frills version of the Transformers.
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
they were obviously a cheap knockoff for sure.
well, yeah, and it was a Tonka as opposed to Hasbro, and it was. I don't know if you remember, but if you got your first couple of Transformer toys, the first ones I ever got, some were really complicated. I mean, you had to study it to figure out how to transform it so you didn't like break a head off or something, and it was very intricate. GoBots were just like you saw in the video there. It just kind of twisted. You know, you just you twisted it and you flipped the hood over and there was the head. It was
there was no real changing involved.
No.
And Transformers were, and GoBots were as well, metal.
Metal, yes.
Yeah, there was none of this plastic stuff going on. Like, there was a reason why you would get in trouble when you were chasing your sister around with Optimus Prime, is because he had steel legs.
There was heft.
Yeah, there really was.
I got nailed in the nuts when I was I guess I was maybe like 11, 12. Me and my friend were out in the yard and we were playing with I had gotten do you guys remember the train ones that were purple? The Transformers one that were which
It was the one that it was Astro Trainer, I think.
Astro Trainer, something like that. And I remember I got that one and I was super loving it, but that thing's nothing but a missile. And my friend threw it at me so I could catch it because I said, "Hey, throw it to me," and that thing hit me right in the old 12-year-old balls, man, and I thought I was gonna die. I was coughing for a good 10 minutes. But yeah, that's my horrible Transformer story that happened to me. Oh man, wow. Did you wound your sister with the Transformer ever, Joel? That you were chasing with?
No. The threat was imminent, but then quickly squashed by Mom, and with a lot of pointing and yelling,
nice,
and reasoning, which of course I didn't understand. But yeah, no, it was. The thing that I always remember so disappointing about the toy line from Transformers when I was a kid is that you'd see Transformers on the screen that would be big enough to then have Transformers get inside them and then fly away.
Right. And
those toys were never this to scale.
Right.
When you got them. But some of them got big. Like I had Omega Supreme. I have.
I want to run to I want to run to Taco. I want to go get some Taco Bell and get an Omega Supreme right now.
My friend Jeff had not Scorponok, but I think it was. Maybe it was Scorponok. It was the giant scorpion that turned into like a battle station.
Right.
My friend Matt had.
Oh, Matt! Is he talking about you, Matt?
Metroplex, I think was his name.
Oh, yes.
And they were huge. Like they were 18 inches tall and had all kinds of crazy moving parts. Incidentally, I did find the name of that show. It's called Shadow Raiders, or in the U.S. it might have been called War Planets.
War Planets. I don't remember that at all.
If I'm wrong, the Soundwave, the aforementioned cassette playing Transformer, he had a bunch of tape robots. And if I remember, those actually did fit inside his little tape player, didn't they?
They did. Yeah. They did for him. Yeah, they did for him. There was a couple of dinosaurs. There was, I want to say, Laserbeak and Ravage. And there was a guy that made Earthquakes. Rumble?
Right. I think it was Rumble. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the Rumble, Laserbeak, and Ravage were the original three. And then, of course, they expanded to other stuff. But my favorite Transformer was Grimlock.
I can see that, yeah.
If you go away from the everybody loves Optimus Prime.
Right,
but
right.
Like to go with a unique bot, it was always Grimlock. Did you guys have a favorite?
Go ahead, Matt.
I had a favorite, but I think this was actually a complete ripoff. They called him Jetfire, but it was basically the Robotech robot.
Oh, okay. Yes, Robotech. I loved Robotech. I had a bunch of those toys later on, but Jetfire. I had a lot of Transformers. I remember summertime would come, and Mom would we would do some chores around the house, and we would get some money. And but it would be for the beach. So she'd be like, "Okay, we're going to the beach, and you've earned your X number of dollars." And so she's like, "I'm gonna put that back." I'm like, "No, I'm gonna get a Transformer." And she'd be like, "But you need the money for the beach." And I'm like, "I'm not gonna spend any money at the beach. I'm not that kind of kid. I'm gonna freaking play with a transformer. And so I remember purchasing, doing that kind of stuff, and I would play with that transformer the entire time I was at the beach. I should have known there was something wrong with me then. But I had the I'm trying to remember what it was. It was it had one that assembled that was really big, but I had to buy them all separately.
Oh,
it was
did you have
it was the one with the construction bots.
Constructicon. The
Constructicon.
Constructicons, and it
Devastator,
was Devastator was the big guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember building that thing and just, oh man, that was my thing. That was my thing. I was like, Mom, leave me alone. I'm doing this thing with the Transformers.
And that had that whole Voltron thing going on where it was like a robot made of a lot of smaller robots.
Right.
Exactly.
Which is always cool.
Love
And-
Voltron.
Yeah, I'd say Voltron was another show that I watched all the time.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, I did have a video for that, but I might maybe drop it in later. We have to kind of pretend. Voltron, defender of the universe, from
Sounds
something
vaguely familiar,
right? And it's like Voltron. If you've ever gone back, Voltron was heavily modified from its original Japanese roots, and so Voltron is this really different story in America than it is from the original that was in Japan. If you ever, even the opening, they take liberties. They're showing scenes from things that happen in the Japanese version, and they say, "Oh, it's this. This is what's happening." And you're like, "No, it's not. Not even close. You guys are just taking liberties. Stop taking your liberties. Give me more entertainment." And that happened a lot. We were abused as children during the 70s and 80s from the marketing corporations of everywhere, right?
Yeah, we were the guinea pigs.
We were the guinea
They
pigs.
tested it out on us.
We were left at home. We were one of the first generations that were left at home after school and before school sometimes to kind of fend for ourselves and to be grown-ups. We were called LatchKey Kids, and basically what it means is we were given a key to the house, and when we would arrive home, whether somebody picked us up and dropped us off, or if we rode the bus, or however we got home, we would basically be in charge of the house from 3 to 5 until Mom and Dad got home, and it was a responsibility, but it was also a lot of freedom.
It was awesome.
For kids. Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, we maybe our baby boomer parents weren't there as much as we are for our kids today, but dadgummit, they let us, they made up for it by buying us guilt gifts and lots of Transformers and that kind of stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons why we had such a technical revolution, is because kids growing up during the 80s, their parents had expendable income because both parents were working. And as a result, they were giving us everything. I wouldn't say everything we were asking for, but a lot of things. Our generation got a lot of technology when it was coming and being developed, and I think that made that whole market. You know what I mean? As consumers, we made that market and said, we want video games, we want a 24-hour cartoon channels, we want stuff. And our parents had the money to buy it because they feel like they want stuff and they need that house and that boat and whatever else they had to do. So our childhoods are oddly linked up with this whole marketing thing, and that's what a lot of these cartoons were back then, is just trying to sell you some toys.
I gotta pull us back on
Bring
the
us back.
subject a little bit here, because I'm looking down at the notes and I see that Joel's got in his list
Right.
Inspector Gadget.
Yes.
And I always had a bone to pick with Inspector Gadget, but first I want to hear what Joel has to say about it.
Yeah, Inspector Gadget is one of those things that you watch because there's nothing else on, and then you actually start to get into it.
Right.
And you don't necessarily go back and watch it on purpose, but you're just like, it's the thing that's on before Thundercats or
Right.
the Disney block, or like whatever was happening right after Inspector Gadget was important. And like, for all I know, it could have been like Batman But for whatever reason, you're watching Inspector Gadget, and I found out later. Actually, I ended up working with a couple of guys in animation that worked on Inspector Gadget back when it was being made.
Right.
And it was They always had interesting tales because of course, there was no budget. They were doing all this kind of stuff in a very limited way. But when I was in university, there's a really long line at Meal Hall, and for whatever reason, somebody had the Inspector Gadget theme in their head. They probably saw it on YouTube or something. And everybody's kind of getting impatient, and there's just guys are just goofing off and being silly. And then somebody at the front of the line goes, boom, 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 boom. And everybody kind of just looks at each other like, yeah, I know what that is.
Right.
And then someone else goes, boom, 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 boom. And then somebody at the end of the line goes,
Nice.
and it starts going back and forth. So there's somebody up with like 3/4 of the way goes boom boom boom, and then somebody else goes boom boom boom, and then everybody's just like boom 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 boom. It goes on and on and on. And the whole lineup of like 50 or 60 people just waiting to eat.
Right.
Are just losing their minds laughing over this ridiculous a cappella version of the Inspector Gadget theme song. But then everybody's cursing them later because it's then stuck in your mind for like the rest of the night.
And if it was modern times, someone would have caught that on their camera phone, and and we would see it on YouTube right now. But unfortunately, no. And once again, we go back to that shared experience that this generation doesn't get to have. We do get to have some shared experiences. We know we pass around the viral videos and stuff, but do we all walk around and sing the theme song to Inspector Gadget? I'd like to hear what you'd have to say about that. I'd like to hear from those listening who would argue with me and say, but Brian, memes are permeating the public conscious way more than anything Inspector Gadget had back in the 80s. I'd like to hear that argument.
I think the issue is that you've got to have the right group of people, like the right age group, because even just 5 years, like if you just go back, get somebody that's not 35, but someone that's like 27 to 30, and ask them what their favorite cartoons were growing up, completely different.
Oh, absolutely, because they were more of the Nintendo, Nickelodeon, Disney
Pokemon.
generation, Pokemon,
and the Pokemon stuff, right? I mean, I remember when I was working at camp in New York, as a art counselor, and we took the kids to go see the Pokemon movie. And I was lost. I spent the hour and a half bus ride having 10-year-olds explain to me what was going on.
Don't explain it to me anymore. I don't want to hear it.
Like Pokemon was something I just never got into. Jocelyn has been watching it on Netflix because it was one of her favorite cartoons.
Right.
And I mean, it's not bad. It's a decent cartoon for what it is. But I can totally now understand why kids were so into it. If I was 10 and watching Pokemon, or even like 6 or 7, like I would have lost my mind. Would have been amazing.
Total simple story. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have like a favorite show from after school or lunchtime? Did you have anything that you ran home because you had to get home before it started?
It's odd that you should mention that because I'm about to play the video from the thing that I had to see every afternoon when I got home, and I'll tell you why I had to see it right after this. Right after that. Guess I'll have to rewind it first. And now, the thing I promised.
There must be something. Some way of smashing the sword of omens forever.
Yeah, and see, I knew we would be talking about this tonight because I don't know if you noticed or not, if you can see my shirt.
Oh, yeah.
I got my Thundercat shirt on, Thundercats ho. Big influence upon my young mind. And I had to get home to see the Thundercats because Chitara. Okay, basically it was a Chitara.
Yeah, I was
going through puberty, and that cheetah costume was all kinds of drawn right.
What little boy wasn't crushing on Chitara?
All kinds of drawn right.
Yeah.
True story. It's embarrassing, but it's also kind of true. But there was a lot of testosterone going on in that show. He-Man was very simple and but there was just something sexy about Thundercats.
Well, and
He-Man was kind of like Superman, you know? He was kind of too goody-goody.
Right.
Yeah.
Stupid.
And pretty invulnerable. Like there wasn't a lot of peril in He-Man, whereas there was always a more of a group dynamic, and everybody needed to help out in order for Lion-O and the crew to kind of do their thing on Thundercats. The one thing that I always find disappointing about the 80s cartoons, especially when you grow up and you go back and watch them, is that the intros are always so much better than the actual show.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So much better.
That's like the comics that when we were growing up, too, had these amazing covers, and then you'd open them up, and it's like black and white, totally different artists.
Such a ripoff. Why such a ripoff? Come on.
But I remember like watching Thundercats. I was old enough to already know that I kind of wanted to do animation.
Right.
And so there was a part of me that it was, I always liked the sequences. They would always have the same 2 sequences in every show. One where, Lino's doing the sword thing, thunder, Thundercats, whoa! And then, they would have Mumra, the ever-living, and it would always be the
pretty good, Matt. Pretty good
sequence.
Right.
And so I picked up on it. I'm like, come on, guys, you can't just change it up a little bit here or there, Even
story.
at that age, I knew it was like some sort of money-saving gimmick.
Right, right. It was a little bit of both. It's funny because it was definitely a money-saving gimmick, but it also unintentionally hooked you into this one scene that would happen. It was almost like an intro in the middle of the show, because whenever the cartoon like He-Man would come on, He-Man did the same thing. It was horrible. Every week when he would have the power, he'd have it at least once in the intro and once middle ways through the show, so he could show out. And it was almost like I would kind of start fading away a little bit from the cartoon, and then when that scene would happen, it would kind of bring you back in. It was like a hook, and I don't think it was intentional, but it was definitely there. And it was I guess it's the one piece, because everything else was kind of crappily animated sometimes, and then that one scene was like the movie scene. It's like, yeah.
We went back as a class. We were watching old 80s cartoons in animation school, because everybody's like doing in-betweening and stuff like that, so you gotta have something on in the background while you're there working all like into the wee hours.
Right.
And someone would find these on DVD or whatever, and we'd watch them. And there was this pivotal scene in one of the episodes where Lion-O was like, either grabbing the sword or holding the sword or about to do something very important with the sword. And some animation lackey forgot to put the sword in for a couple frames. So he's literally holding his arm above his head, and the sword goes boop, and then boop, and it goes back. And of course, all of us being in animation school are like training our eyes and studying this classic animation for its brilliance. And we're going, the sword disappeared.
Right.
Oh,
Rewind.
Even,
find that frame and take a snapshot of it, because my God, it's too funny.
What's even less forgivable is that Disney did something similar in Bambi, although they've taken it out, I've noticed.
Oh, really?
But the original version of Bambi, it's after the forest fire.
Right.
And it's this, I think, raccoon. She brings her babies out of the water and onto the land and is licking one of them. And the one that she's licking suddenly disappears. You're like, oh my God, she ate it. But they've fixed it since then. But I remember every time I would watch it on VHS, I'd be like, oh, she totally ate her baby.
Oh, that is greght. I'll look see if I can find that somewhere. That's a great story. That's much better than what I had. I was thinking maybe like he was going to say that Bambi's dad had a sword or something and it disappeared for a minute. But
that's an even better idea for an animation.
Yeah, the sword from Thundercats disappeared. And it turns to Bambi for 2 frames.
Stabs him right in the head.
That's how Bambi's dad or mom really died.
That's how she really died.
Sword fell out of the sky. Sklitch. Sorry.
So we got to talk about my favorite from the 80s. What was your favorite, Matt?
Oh, for me, it had to be G.I. Joe.
Yeah, G.I. Joe's.
Because I think also the toys. And also it was one of those ones that was on every day.
Right.
So yeah, my friend Josh and I, we would watch G.I. Joe all the time, and that was like our primary toy too. We had like so many of them. Like I used to carry them around in a shoebox.
Right.
Just piles and piles of G.I. Joes. It was fantastic.
I used to love the PSAs were always my favorite things from the shows, because you'd be going along and you'd be watching GI Joe, and then all of a sudden they would throw in some kind of serious PSA, or it'd be like, "You're at home alone. Don't answer the phone. If you answer the phone, somebody's gonna come get you and kill you." And that was the kind of stuff that they would do all the time. Don't do drugs. They were constantly telling me not to do drugs. And
although I can remember even as a kid, I was thinking, oh, why is no one ever getting hurt by any of these shots being fired? And then my friend Josh and I would always joke that, like, didn't matter, what you hit a vehicle with or how quick, whatever, someone would always pop out in a parachute,
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the planes were constantly shoot a little parachute come out. I love that part. I also remember there's one thing there that I learned from G.I. Joe, and with my OCD brain, I think about it every time I eat an apple. They stopped this giant blob thing that was like I guess Cobra must have made something that showed up and was basically
God, I already know what you're gonna say, and I totally forgot about that.
You totally forgot it. And so how they killed it was they put it in the path of apple orchard farm or something, and it killed him because there was cyanide in apple seeds or something like that. Am I getting that close? Is that kind of what you were thinking, Matt?
Yeah, I have a vague memory of that.
Right.
Yeah. So Joel, was the G.I. Joe a thing up yonder?
Yeah, G.I. Joe was a thing, but for whatever reason, I was just never on the G.I. Joe train.
G.I. Mountie.
I went from Transformers in through, all the same sort of like stuff that Brian was talking about, like Thundercats, Dino Riders, Mask, the real Mask. Ghostbusters was a big one.
Silverhawks?
Brave Star, Silverhawks. There was another one too that was
Brave Star. Wasn't that the guy with the mechanical horse or the robot horse that would?
Yeah, that was such a weird.
How weird is that? Show. I've been riding you, and now you're looking at me in the eye on two legs. That's kind of
it's
a little bit weird.
That was a bizarre show, but they're all kind of the same clan of shows. But the one that I would rush home for, which ekes out of the 80s by a hair, is Batman the Animated Series.
Yes.
That was
Absolutely.
the one that I would just be like, yeah, exactly. The one that would it was almost, I don't know if it was Bruce Timm music, but it was very Bruce Timm-esque. The spirit of it kind of had that sort of Michael Keaton Batman.
That
was obviously riding that vibe, but then I think it took it way in a better direction.
Oh, much better, absolutely.
Because I can remember the stories for those. Some of them were just so solid. You're like, how is this considered just for kids? This is awesome.
Yeah, and they're on Netflix now, which is amazing.
Are they? Kidding.
Yeah, because I've got the DVD set, or at least I've got the first volume. And the way that I never understood when they released these old cartoons and DVD sets, they always released them in the order that they were produced and not in the order that they aired on television.
Right.
And it drove me crazy. So in Netflix, it's not the same problem, but it's a different problem because it's another order. So when I was watching them, I went and I looked up a list, on how to watch the animated series, and somebody has gone through and reordered the way that you watch Batman the Animated Series in escalation. So it starts with Batman being an outlaw, being hunted by the cops, solving crime, mob boss stuff, and then it gradually, over the course of the order in which you watch them, introduces supervillains, the Batman, canon of villains, Joker, Clayface, all this kind of stuff. And so far it's been a really cool experience to kind of see this, mobster kind of 30s style, Batman kind of blossom into the more fantastical, and it's been a really cool experience. But I remember being blown away by how good the series was in terms of just there was real peril, people. I feel like some people died, and then just, it was.
And he was always getting the crap beat out of him too.
Oh yeah, he was also. It was one of the first times that they started drawing superheroes in cartoons, really big. Like when he hit people, right? And he also, especially later on in the series, and especially when they made the movies, he was mean. Like, you know, he would knock a bunch of people over, and there'd be some guy underneath the table struggling to get up. And as Batman walks away, he would stomp on the table, you know, and smoosh the guy underneath. You know, and I was like, again, not killing him or anything, but just like, you're a bad guy. I get to beat on you. This is kind of the thing, you know. And it made it really, really cool. And then follow that up with the Superman animated series, which is the same Bruce Timm production,
Right.
sort of thing. And that was just epic. Like, just that was later on. That wasn't so much like when I was a kid. That was more like high school. But man, the Superman animated series, they finally drew Superman like a house. Like, he was just monstrous. And I feel like both of those series really kind of, I mean, they might have been the two that really pushed me to be, you know, get into cartoons and animation as a career to start things off. Yeah.
I could totally see that. That was during a time when, up until that point, up until like the late 80s, we were mostly just seeing network TV, and about late 80s, early 90s, you started seeing, you know, Fox was coming into prominence with his cartoon blocks, and so was the WB and those guys. They were a lot more edgier. And,
with the Tiny Toons and
Spielberg did the Tiny Toons, and, you know, the Hensons had the Muppet Babies. Yeah, that was great stuff, right? You didn't watch that crap, did you, Matt?
creak 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 creak
Creak, 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 creak. All
No,
right.
I think I watched a few Muppet Babies. That one was actually fairly good. And
Well, you know what?
But,
you know what my sisters watched? This.
My little pony, isn't the world a lovely place? My little pony, everywhere you go, a smiling face. Running and skipping, never tripping, watching the morning unfold. My little pony, what does the future hold?
Starring Sandy Duncan and Tony Randall.
I think this may be going a little longer than the intro was supposed to.
yeah, I think this is actually getting into the episode.
All right, so we'll get out of that crap right
But
now.
this is something that's definitely where I have a little bit of a disconnect. I mean, I'd never watched it growing up, but then this is one of those things that has seen a resurgence, but like in a weird way.
Right.
Like the whole, what is it, the brony thing or something? I don't even know I know I see ponies everywhere online, and they're obviously newer. I have no idea what it's about, though, but apparently everyone loves it.
Right. There's a whole new faction of bronies that has there's actually okay, we already know YouTube has a lot of hateful comments. People who when I was going through collecting some videos for this, one of the things I was noticing on the older My Little Ponies, people were having to turn off the comments. And I can only imagine what jerky things people were saying about because there's apparently like some kind of, because that was from the first generation of My Little Pony, and that's what the intro was from, and that was the one I remember. And of course, I've seen some of the stuff since then as well. But I think there's a little bit of a infighting kind of between the old and the new My Little Pony. You know, it has a little bit of a little bit more edge now. But I remember my sisters watching that and Muppet Babies and that kind of stuff. I enjoy Muppet Babies too, but it was definitely much more their time than it was for me, you know?
Well, there's more than just a TV show now, because there's comics too.
Yeah, there's comics.
Because Katie Cook, who was on the show a couple of years ago, she draws My Little Pony comics.
Right. She sure does. And that's, like I said, it's still a huge thing. And if you're a cartoonist, you're probably shaking your head like, yeah, every time I go to a con, somebody wants me to draw Twilight Sparkle every time.
I gotta bring this up though before. I don't know how close we are to the end of the show.
We're getting
but
there.
I gotta get this in here. Did anyone else watch Danger Mouse?
Yes, with John Kay's Danger Mouse, that era when he was doing stuff.
No, not John Kay, the original Danger Mouse, the one that.
I'm
was
sorry,
like,
Danger Mouse, not Mighty Mouse. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Danger Mouse.
Right, Danger
The
Mouse.
one from like England.
Yes. I've seen a few episodes. That's the white mouse with the eye patch. If you don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and he's got
not the other one.
that little sidekick guy.
Right.
Penfold, I think his name was. Oh, crumbs!
Oh, crumbs!
Carrots!
When you say
I've seen it, but I don't remember watching it.
wow, when you say
Like,
that,
I've seen the cartoon before.
Where I think even when I was watching it, I got the feeling like there was a lot of humor that was maybe going over my head.
right?
Because it still had kind of that dry English humor thing vibe to it. So, but I still watched it anyway.
That's how I felt about all the Hanna-Barbera stuff. The Yogi Bear, Flintstones, and was Rocky and Bullwinkle Hanna-Barbera?
No.
But same kind of adult vibe.
Right.
You know, where they would, like, even character names would be like puns that, you know, a 10-year-old just wouldn't get.
Right. That was Rocky and Bullwinkle's whole vibe. Was that whole if it, the punnier the better, man. It was. I enjoyed those things too. That was. I don't think I started enjoying those until later on. I would see them on TV as a kid, and I would be, it's okay. But then when I got older and started realizing, you know, fractured fairy tales and that kind of stuff, and some of that stuff that's been flying right over my head as a child, I started getting it. And I'm like, oh, this is a little bit brilliant. And so that's great. So that's about all we have for our weekday cartoons episode. There's one more that I've got to squeeze in there because I have a friend who I had told I was going to be recording this tonight, and I was like, well, what did you watch? And I'm like, did you watch Voltron? Did you watch Thundercats? Did you watch Brave Star? Did you got all that stuff with the G.I. Joe? And he's like, nah, I didn't like that stuff. And I'm like, what do you mean you didn't like that stuff? And he's like, no, I had to watch this.
Where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We need some help from you now. Come on, Scooby-Doo, I see you. Pretending you got a silver. You're not human being, 'cause I can see the way you shake and shimmer. You know we got a mystery to solve, so Scooby-Doo, be ready for your act. Don't hold back. Just Scooby-Doo, if you come through, you're gonna have yourself a Scooby snack. That's a fact. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, here are you. You're ready and you're willing. We can count on you, Scooby-Doo. I know you'll catch that feeling.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Joel shares my opinion on this one.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, do you like you wax nostalgic with a bunch of animator friends from school, and ultimately someone, you know, likes Scooby-Doo, and I always felt like the one on the outside going, no, that was a dumb cartoon, man.
Really?
Like, I could not get into it. I couldn't watch it. I would just leave the room if it was on. I hated it. I didn't like it at all.
It's so fascinating to me that people just absolutely, there are people who just absolutely hate Scooby-Doo. My girlfriend, she hates it. She can't stand it. And I'm like, but it's Scooby-Doo. I mean, it's not in my, it's probably not in my tops, but I'll watch some Scooby-Doo. I mean, come on. I mean, it's humans finding out that humans are bad. I mean, there's, what could you ask for? Scooby Snacks.
I say that, and I mean, Scooby-Doo probably, in terms of just the grand scheme of things, it probably holds up as a better cartoon than even, say, Thundercats or Transformers. But for whatever reason, when I was a kid, like, Scooby-Doo was like the bottom of the list.
I'll hit it for you, because this is how I know my mindset was when I was little. If it existed before me, it was obviously garbage.
Right.
I think that's just a typical, kid way to act, when you're little, anything that's older is obviously worse. Give me the new stuff. I want the new stuff.
It's the crap my mom and dad watched when they were kids. Turn it off.
Which is so funny because none of us knew that the Bugs Bunny and Tweety stuff was actually a lot older than everybody, right?
Yeah.
I think I knew, but for some reason, I think, again, just the animation quality.
Well, and it was a fresh package. Like, this is the thing, like, the Scooby-Doo theme is very 70s. And for me, in the 80s, I feel like there was just a pop culture thing, was that the 70s were old. They were done. Like you live in the neon
Dunaway?
80s.
We hated the 70s instantly. You know, I was born in 72. So I was 8 by the time 1980 rolled around. So yeah, we were done. I mean, everybody as we rolled into the 80s, everybody hated the 70s when we got into the 80s. I mean, everybody was just like, what the hell were we doing? And of course, we can't see that as much today because we look back and go, oh, you know, 70s had their time, and you know they had the bell bottoms. But man, I mean, during the 80s, we were like, disco's stupid, it's dead, bell bottoms are moronic. Wow. I mean, we really hated the 70s during the 80s. True story. And it took all the way until the 90s before we even started want to even talk about the 70s again. It's like no. But yeah, so that was my friend's thing that he would watch. He liked Tom and Jerry, and he liked those kind of cartoons in the afternoon.
Yeah, Tom and Jerry's good too.
Right, but I wanted some action figures. I don't think he really played with action figures, and so maybe that was why I was a little bit easier sell for this action stuff. And I can't wait till we talk this next time about. We didn't even get into what eventually destroyed network afternoon TV with the cable companies, with Disney getting their Disney block in there with DuckTales and Chip and Dale and all that stuff like that.
Oh, geez. When Disney started doing cartoons for TV,
right.
They were just so good. Like
right.
they pulled the rug out from under everybody.
Yeah, Filmation suddenly looked like, what were we watching with Filmation? It's like, get out of here.
Well, especially when they were taking characters you've already loved, like, you know, Chip and Dale from just the Mickey Mouse cartoons and Christmas specials, and turning them into like Rescue Rangers. They add a few side characters and all that, but you're already familiar, like you know what to expect. Right.
It's coming. We're going to talk about it soon, but this was our episode on the weekday afternoon. End up mostly being the 80s. If we missed one of your favorite cartoons, I'm sure we did, because there's at least a good 3 or 4 generations or decades of kids spending their afternoons alone with the TV, and we'll probably eventually get to them, but we didn't get to them this time. If you do want us to talk about a cartoon or want to relay a story that you had from your childhood of cartoons that you watched, send it in to guys@comicscoasttocoast.com or post it in the comments on the bottom down at YouTube if you want to, or wherever you're at. Just send it to us. Joel Duggan, where can people follow you at?
They can follow me on Twitter at Joel Duggan. They can follow me on my comic blog, starcrossonline.com. And don't forget to check out patreon.com/Joel Duggan. That's how everybody can help me make more comics. Yay.
Sweet. And Matthew Ducharme, where can we see you, brother?
On Twitter, Matt_the_wad.
Very good. And you can follow me at the Brian Dunaway. Check out all of the stuff we're doing at Comics Coast to Coast. We don't do this every week. We don't do the nostalgia shows. A lot of weeks we talk to cartoonists and comic artists, and we do interviews, which are fun, and we have a great time. And sometimes we even ask them about cartoons too. We need to make sure we include that into our further discussions. So do check it out, and you can also you can watch these videos on youtube.com/comics C2C. That's it. We'll see you guys next week.
Is your mom there?
No, I'm home alone.
Well, you won a prize. What's your address?
42 Oak Street. Hey, Roblox, some stranger's bringing me a prize.
A stranger, huh? All he wanted to bring you was trouble. Remember, never tell anyone you're home alone, and never give anyone your address.
I'll say Mom can't come to the phone.
Smart thinking.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!